Sometime in the year 2000, the idea of offering graduate courses through the web started to take shape in the mind of Dr. John Wesley Taylor V, the professor of instructional media in the Department of Educational Studies of the graduate school. At about that time, online learning was just starting in the US and the rest of the world. The field was still young, and yet AIIAS was already determined to use the new modality for a special purpose.
It was about mission. You see, AIIAS, since its very beginning, has had a mission. And that is to make, in some way, a contribution to God's work. Particularly at the graduate level, to prepare people better for the service of God. One way to do that was for people to come to AIIAS. And many of them would come and they would bring their families, and they would study for a number of years. But we soon discovered not everyone could come. And so AIIAS developed another modality, a distance learning center modality, where instead of the students coming to AIIAS, the professor from AIIAS would go to a certain place and meet with a cohort of students. Unfortunately, there were many people who lived in different parts who wanted to avail of the AIIAS education, but for various reasons weren't able to come to the campus, sometimes because of work, sometimes because of financial constraints or other family reasons. And they didn't have enough other people to form a distance learning center in their immediate area. And so we began to think, how can we fulfill our mission for these people? And it seemed impossible. I mean, what could you do? About that time, some of us were beginning to use technology as part of our teaching. In fact, early on in the late 1990s, some of us began to offer what we actually called paperless courses. The idea was that all course materials, even the course syllabus and student projects, would be sent electronically in a digital format. And email was becoming a way of communication, and website and putting materials on a website. And so a number of us began to try that and offered our face-to-face students the concept of a paperless course. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to analyze it that here at AIIAS was probably one of the first, if not the first place in Asia where actually there was a paperless course taught. But then suddenly, and I don't remember exactly if it was a moment of sudden inspiration or just a growing realization that, you know, maybe this was the solution. The solution to making our mission reach everyone, no matter where they were. And so that's kind of how it started.
Driven by the necessity to reach distant students through technology, Dr. Taylor was able to convince the AIIAS administration to support his vision of an online school. Thus, on March 1, 2001, the AIIAS Management Committee created the Division of Online Learning and charged it with the development and administration of distributed learning programs. Entering an uncharted territory like online education was indeed challenging, given the limited resources of AIIAS.
I can remember as we would talk about fulfilling mission in our meetings as faculty that I decided, well, why don't we put some of these ideas down on paper? Why don't we prepare a proposal and take it to the administration and talk about what might we do Because AIIAS has always been something like on the cutting edge. The DLC concept, the distance learning centers, were an innovation. The concept of a graduate institution that is just graduate was an innovation. I mean, even today within Adventist higher education, it is the only institution that is only graduate. So all of these things were innovations, and I think that it was an environment where innovation was not only accepted, it was encouraged. And we had an excellent administrative team. The president at that time, Dr. David Birkenstock, and just a wonderful person. We took the proposal to him and shared it with him, and we said, you know, we think this has future. We think this can truly make a difference in AIIAS fulfilling its mission as we go forward. What do you think? And he looked at it and he said, you know, I think we'd like to try it. And so that was the beginning of setting in motion a sequence of events that would eventually lead to the establishment of an entity at AIIAS called the Division of Online Learning, which at that moment was just a virtual concept. I mean, there was no place for it, there was no equipment, there were no people, and so it was a matter of a dream. And then taking the steps one by one to make that dream become a reality.
When I was there, I was asked to be a member of the committee. I must confess now that I was a little bit of a doubter. For one thing, this was a new idea. This seems to be a very new thing then. When this idea was brought up to us, I started also comparing with what others are doing. And I remembered very well that, you know, I went into this, what we call the University of the Philippines Open System, something like. So it was quite similar, I think. And so when I had the idea of what this is really about, then I tried to assess whether this is viable, whether this would work. And then there the challenges came.
Well, the proposal that we prepared contained a listing of our goals, what we wanted to accomplish. It contained a time sequence of how we envisioned this development taking place. It included a list of potential personnel that would be needed and resources that would need to be in place, and some funding, how much would this cost. So those things do have to be carefully thought through. If a proposal is going to receive administrative support, it has to be solid. And so the fact that the proposal contained these elements, I think contributed to a confidence on the part of the administration that this wasn't just a flash in the night. It wasn't just something that would be here today and gone tomorrow. We shared also with them some of the research that was coming out about online learning and its potential and how it's carried out. And I remember early on, as part of that process, we even did a presentation on distributed learning at one of the forum events of the School of Graduate Studies. And that also helped build an awareness that this was a viable modality, that there was a lot of good things happening already in this area, in different places. The administration was very visionary to say, we will put the funding for this project, recognizing that we will probably not see a viable financial return on this for quite a number of years. Yeah. We talked very frankly with them about it. We said, this is planning for the future. If we want this institution in its future to ride the wave rather than try to paddle up the backside of the wave, we're going to have to invest for a time without expecting significant financial returns. It's going to take a while. So we were very upfront. We did not paint a picture that, by next year, we're going to be in the black and we're going to be generating profit. No. This is going to take a number of years before it even breaks even. But we believe it's worthwhile as an institutional future.
One that I remembered correctly was to find the right people, you see, especially in the technology side, technology support, because these people will say, okay, yeah, this can be done, and we had just to be creative, and that is, I think, one. The other one was very good support, you see, from administration, because even then, like bandwidth, for example, we had this big challenge, but then they said, okay, we are willing to invest. We are willing to invest there, and I can see that they had faith too. They were acting on faith because it has never been tried, and then uncharted territory. But now, looking back, it was nice. It was a good decision. It was right decision, and in fact, later on, towards maybe when we have begun a few years later, we became even prouder that we were the first one who was willing to go into the water. And there was a bandwagon, it seems. People were going into this modality, but we were there first, even in the Adventist system, so I think.